Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Elseroad, and I'm a certified prosthetist
I don't
orthotist.
think has joined yet, so
Oh, okay.
let me give him a minute. Sorry about that.
Oh, no, good.
Yeah.
Let me know. I was just practicing.
Okay.
Probably let y'all start it then.
Welcome everyone to our September guest speaker with Mr. Elseroad. So we'll get started in a few minutes. So feel free to say hi in the comments.
Welcome Alliance HOSA members to our virtual meeting with Dr. Elseroad. Good evening, I'm Aditi Jakalinki. Just to introduce myself, I am one of your vice presidents and I'm so stoked to be here tonight.
Hey guys, my name is Rutu and I'm one of your committee leaders, and I'm also very excited to be here with you guys and have everyone meet Mr. Elseroad. So just as a reminder, we are going to have a QR code set up later in the event for attendance, so make sure you stay here the entire time.
Before we begin, I'd like to briefly introduce our CTSO/organization to any of our new members. HOSA is a student-led healthcare organization that strives to prepare students to be the future of healthcare. Through Alliance Academy's HOSA, we bring to you monthly guest speakers with a wide range of specialties and from all around the globe.
So now, without further ado, tonight's guest speaker is Mr. Elseroad, and on behalf of Alliance HOSA, we welcome you with warm arms. So thank you so much for joining us. We're truly honored to have you. And so we'll start off the discussion with you kind of talking about yourself and your career, and we will have time for member questions towards the end of the event. So the floor is open for anyone that has any questions to type them in the chat box. So Mr. Elseroad, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your field?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you both and to your whole organization for having me. I'm looking forward to this and sharing what I do with a profession that not a whole lot of people know about. So what is a certified prosthetist orthotist? Well, besides me, I am a clinician who is part of the greater healthcare team, and I help to improve movement and function in my patients with typically musculoskeletal and neurological impairments. So I evaluate my patients. I help, I lead the design of the custom device, whether it's an orthotic device or a prosthetic device. We'll get more into what each of those are in a second. But I lead that, and then I deal with the fitting of the devices, the training of the device, and then if they need to see a therapist, I help lead that and get them connected. Or if they need to go back and see their doctor or a specialist, I help set that up as well. So, certified prosthetist orthotist. Two pretty big words that you probably know what they are, but prosthesis is a device that takes the place of something that's missing. So I deal with arms and legs. There's another profession that's smaller, but they deal with facial features. But I do fingers all the way down to toes in prosthetics. The other portion of what I do as an orthotist is I do custom orthotics, which supplement an existing body part, joint, limb, to get more function out of it. So I deal with limb loss, I deal with scoliosis, diabetes, stroke, spinal cord injuries, congenital disorders, you name it in the musculoskeletal and neurological umbrella. I deal with most every type of patient. I deal with all ages. I do pediatrics as well as geriatrics and everything in between. So there's really nothing that I don't do in my field. So once I create these devices, like I said, I train them how to use it. There's a lot of technology nowadays, but even when there's not technology involved, you still need to teach the patient how to use it. Education is key. No matter what any of you do in a healthcare profession, education is key. You hear about bedside manner, you hear about all these things that, oh, well, my doctor doesn't have bedside manner. One part of bedside manner is actually teaching your patient what to do. And, I'm providing something. I don't provide medicine, but a doctor providing medicine should teach you how to use it. I need to teach my patients how to use the device. And then on top of that, once I deliver that device, I will have them back for follow-up to make sure they're doing it right, to make sure they're not hurting themselves or others or having setbacks, skin problems or falls or anything like that because of something I did or didn't teach them how to do. So I get to build relationships with these patients, and that's another part that I really enjoy. So my company, Hanger Clinic, is the oldest prosthetic orthotic company in the world. It was founded in 1861 during the Civil War by a gentleman on the Confederate side who lost his leg above the knee to a cannonball. So he was the first documented amputee of the Civil War, and this was 1861. He did not like what he was fit with. He was fit with just a stick, pretty much. So he developed his own prosthesis and was commissioned by both sides of the war to do just that. So he started helping patients, treating them, if you will, and had got his own patent on his design, and voila, that's where Hanger Prosthetics and Orthotics came from. So his name was James Edward Hanger. So a little trivia for you. So how did I get into this? Well, I knew, like most of you, that I wanted to do something in healthcare, but I didn't know what. So I've changed, probably 4 or 5 times what I wanted to do. But I'm blessed that I found this at the end of everything. Wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. Then I went to physical therapy school. While I was in physical therapy school, I found out that I can work with amputees. And I like orthotics, but I really like the prosthetics portion of what I do. So I found out that there is a whole profession where I can help people get back to both function and mobility. And that's what I embarked on. So the education portion of being a prosthetist orthotist, you need to go to one of I think there are 10 schools now. There might only be 8. I went to Georgia Tech. So that I came out of Georgia. So it's hard for a Georgia Bulldog to go to Georgia Tech, but I had to. Okay. So I wanted that degree. I didn't want the football, but wanted the degree. So I did that. It is a 2-year program. At the end of that, you get your master's, but you're not done. After that, after successfully completing your master's program, you go on to residency. And you don't have to do both O&P, orthotics, prosthetics. There's a 1-year residency required by our national governing board for each. So I did 2 years of master's program, then I did 2 years of residency. After that, you're You take your tests, you pass those, and you're ready to start seeing patients. So that's what I did. I've been with Hanger for 17 years now, a little over 17 years. Clinical aspect of what we do is what the bulk of people go into. But we do have education professionals because we have to have people go back to the schools and teach. And we also have research. When I started 17, 15 years ago, there wasn't a big research component to what we do, but we started to see, hey, we really need to start showing outcomes that what we're doing means something, what we're doing has value, and we like to get paid because it's our job. So we have to show that to insurance companies. Insurance companies are now requiring, pretty much in every field, outcomes. It's no different for prosthetics and orthotics. So there are some researchers, very small proportion, but it's still needed. So that said, it is a growing profession. The biggest reason it's a growing profession, the bulk of my patients I treat from birth till death. I treat the whole span, but we're a little heavier on older adults, so 65 and above. The NIH is saying by 2030 that there will be 72 million Americans above 65 and above. That's a lot of people. And a lot of those people are going to need help with their mobility and function, upper extremity. We also do spine, we do helmets, you name it, to support the body, we do it. Diabetes cases are trending upward. They have been since the 80s for various reasons. I'm sure you guys have studied it, and you can figure out why diabetes is trending upwards. It's how we eat, it's how we don't exercise, it's all that combined. So that is a big proponent to what we do. And then heart and vascular disease is, they're guessing about 27% increase by 2030. So in the next 8 years, that's going to skyrocket too. And that really affects my amputee population. If they don't lose their limb from diabetes, the next biggest reason for losing a limb is vascular and heart issues. So, and then the fourth big reason for the growth in my profession is obesity, which is tied to diabetes and causes a lot of issues all across the board. So I treat a lot of those people as well. So I will be busy for years to come. If some of you have an interest in this, by the time you're in this field, you'll have plenty to do. And come find me and tell me I'm right or wrong. So, but probably some of your questions are going to be, what kind of devices do I do? I'll gloss over that real quick, and then I'll expound on it based on the questions. So when I see a new patient, like yesterday, I went and saw at the hospital a brand new amputee, 57-year-old gentleman, lost his limb due to diabetes. And the first thing I do is I put something on to protect the limb, because they're in a hospital. They see 100 different people throughout the day. Someone's bound to bump them, so I got to take care of them from the start. So that's what I do. I go see them in the hospital, follow them until they're ready to be seen. When they are ready to be seen, first thing I do is I have to get an image of their limb, no matter if they're upper, if they're lower, or if they're needing a brace. I have to get an image. I use plaster, I use fiberglass, I use laser imaging. So CAD CAM, I do a lot of CAD CAM. Take a lot of measurements, and that's so I know when I'm in the back in my lab, I know what I'm looking for, both in shape and size and design. So I need the measurements. I merge those with everything I do with my molds and my CAD CAM. And I also can document to show insurance, because again, we need to be paid. So we got to show them what we're doing, why we're doing it. It's not just because I felt like doing it that day. I have to show them, and we do that. So after I fit, or after I measure them, I will either do a fitting or I'll do a delivery. That's why I teach them how to do it or how to use it, and set up their follow-up. So let's see, that said, we can take a few questions. And if I don't get a lot of questions about devices, maybe we can take another break and I can start showing you some devices. Okay. All right.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ellersroth, for this introduction. It was so interesting already. I have a question. Like, can you walk us, like, how did you end up, like, exactly, like, how did your interest start in prosthetics? And was it, like, something that inspired you, or, like, what kind of made you, like, be like, this is what I want to do?
So as I pared it down when I was at Georgia, probably in my junior year, I knew I wanted to do something with orthopedics. I thought I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon, but then I really didn't want to be in school that long, and so because that's a 12 to 16 year deal. Would still love to have done it, but I wanted to be in something orthopedics. That's why physical therapy piqued my interest. So I went on that route. Actually, went to Georgia State for 1 year, and we did some work with amputees. Found out that hey, I could do this every day in this profession. So I left Georgia State once I got into Georgia Tech, and the rest is history. But I knew I wanted to do something with orthopedics, and I love neuroscience as well, but it was definitely orthopedic heavy. So,
So you were saying that you could either, be in orthopedics or in prosthetics, that you can like
orthotics.
differentiate between orthotics, and you can differentiate between the two. What are the specific responsibilities that come with each of them?
So a lot are tied together with how we treat the patient. We have to get the positive image. So the limb is a positive image. I take a negative when I take a cast, and then I pour plaster or somehow get it to a rectifiable stage, which means I'm going to start modifying it. Both orthotics and prosthetics require that because I need an image of the patient's limb. With prosthetics, there's really only one disease or disorder. It's limb loss. So yeah, I'm going to treat every body part a little different. But with orthotics, there are a lot of different etiologies, diseases, and disorders. Hundreds. So that's the main difference. One, I'm replacing something. The other, I'm bolstering, I'm supporting it, and I'm providing better function for an existing body part, whether it's a joint, limb, or a foot, arm, hand, but it's existing. In prosthetics, it's no longer there. So those are the two main issues, or the two main differences.
Thank you. And expanding on the differences, like what does a typical day look like for you at the Hanger Clinic?
So 8 to 5, I'm seeing patients typically, and that's one of the things I love about what I do. It's not, oh, okay, come in, I'm taking your blood pressure, I'm asking you this, I'm asking you that. Okay, next patient, I'm doing the same thing. I rarely do I have a patient that was just like a patient that I had that day. Sometimes I can say that for a week. I'll go from somebody missing fingers, and my next patient, maybe they fell off a ladder and they have several broken vertebrae. My next patient after that might have suffered a stroke. So it is very different. Each patient is very different. It keeps me on my toes. Typically, we set aside either half an hour or an hour to see the patient. Because once I'm with that patient, they have my time. I'm not going to walk over. I typically don't schedule multiple patients because I'm invested in that patient at that time. So I will do my eval on the patient. I will talk to them about what their expectations are. A lot of it is listening. If I'm not listening, I'm going to mess up somewhere along the way. And when I go to fit them with the device, hey, that I want to put them in, they don't want it because I didn't listen. So listening is key, not just in what I do, but everyone's probably going to tell you that your guest speakers. So then I'll go and I'll interface with my administrators. I will give them the coding. So everything I do has a code attached to it that insurance knows what we're talking about. And they have a price set and they know exactly what we're after. But then I'm also doing an eval on my computer, documenting everything that I'm seeing, why I'm fitting them with something, why I'm doing an add-on. So maybe I want a specific joint for an ankle brace because that joint is going to give them more spring than another ankle joint. But I have to document all that. I have to justify it, and I have to show them I'm not just doing this because I feel like it. It's going to help the patient, and we are going to see on the other end that it is going to benefit them. So I do that for every patient, whether it's somebody coming in for a finger splint or it's somebody who lost their limb through the hip and I'm making them a hip prosthesis. So no matter what they're coming in for, I have to do those steps each time. So sometimes I'm not really sure what lunch is because I'm seeing patients through that. But then I also do a lot of my own modifications, especially on prosthetics. So when I take a mold, I fill it in my spare time. Then I have that positive image of the patient, and I'm going to make a socket. This is a clear socket. This will be an intermediate socket that I only use in my office. But almost every amputee is going to get some kind of practice socket like this, where I can make adjustments. I can change how it's sitting over a foot or where a hand is sitting. And that's called my test socket fitting. So a week before, I took my casts, I took all my measurements, I did my documentation. Now I'm at we get to walk. This is the first time some of these people have walked in a year or at least months, and it's exciting. I'll sometimes bring my staff in and show the staff because they're just sitting up front. I want them to be able to see this is why we're doing what we're doing because it's awesome. So that will be that appointment. Sometimes I have to do multiple ones of these. Not a lot because I've been doing it for 17 years now. So I get the benefit of, starting to know what I'm doing in 17 years. And then the next appointment typically is the delivery where they get to take it home. So we practice here at my office. And this goes for braces too. We practice walking down my hall. Behind me, I have parallel bars. And I teach them how to do as much as I can, not being a physical therapist, but I know what's going on and what I need to see before I can check them out and let them leave. And that goes for bracing, that goes for upper extremity, lower extremity. So that's my typical day. And then I'm also the manager here, so I have to do all the other stuff that comes with it. So my staff likes to be paid too, so I have to take care of that.
Yeah, thank you for that. I was wondering, kind of how has COVID affected your field and the industry? Was there a large effect or?
It didn't provide me really a new patient pool or patient population. I think I saw over the 2-year period, I saw 2 amputees that were affected by the vascular side effects of COVID, not the shots or anything, but COVID. So that's not, in that 2-year time period, if I saw 2 for COVID, I saw 100 for other reasons, or a large number. Really, what it did is just kind of cut down our workload because surgeries weren't occurring, doctors' offices pared way back, so there just wasn't the influx of patients. That would be the biggest effect. Is it just our patient load went way down, especially for those first few months. So we had to get creative.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, what would you say is like your favorite part of the job?
My favorite part of the job is getting a new amputee up, either walking or using a prosthetic arm or fingers, and being able to either walk. They might be using a walker or a cane, but that counts. I mean, they are up, they're regaining independence. But yeah, just seeing how they respond, seeing them smile, sometimes cry. That's my favorite part. So I love the great patient outcomes. So.
Yeah, no, I bet that's really like rewarding to see like the end result after you work through all of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
Do you typically work in your clinic or do you kind of work in the hospital setting as well?
I would say 95% is in clinic.
Okay.
The remainder are hospital calls, but I also see nursing home and assisted living patients.
Yeah.
So they have the same needs that the people that come here, they just have transportation issues. So I will go there, and COVID cut back on that just because
Mhm.
the facilities had to protect the people that were living there.
Yeah.
So I understand that, but yeah, I go probably to 20 different assisted livings. I take care of 4 hospitals, so I stay busy.
With all this, how is technology like changing your field? Like, I'm like with technology like changing so rapidly. Like, how has it really changed? Like prosthetics and
Yeah, so technology has a bigger effect on prosthetics because we're able to use automated joint movements to some of these prosthetic limbs. So we're doing knees that have computers on board, and the computer controls a hydraulic unit, dampening and opening back up to control how that knee is moving, and it reads real-time data from the speed of the user. So just onboard computers, that is an awesome thing. We have that in our prosthetic hands now, and even fingers. I do computerized fingers as well, but small little circuits and computers control these based on the user movement and control and function. So that's a big thing. 3D printing is coming along. It's still a little on the bulky side for weight bearing purposes, but it's getting better. What I use 3D printing for is a lot of my partial hand and finger amputees. So I'll make the sockets. I don't do it here, but I have a central design center that takes everything that I tell them on the phone or my work orders. I tell them exactly what I want, and they'll get it to me, and they'll use 3D printing. I also do 3D printed arms generally for children or people under 18. So those are the 2 big things. I've been doing CAD CAM for over 12 years, maybe close to 15 years. So that's not a new technology necessarily, but yeah. So that's the biggest change in technology, definitely in prosthetics. So.
Yeah, so for some of our members that are interested in, getting into this field, what are some recommendations that you have that they should do in high school right now?
You could see about shadowing. COVID kind of put a nix on that for a while, but we're coming out of that. I see. What I would say is, feel free to give my email address. I'm happy to answer questions. It's kind of hard for me to get people into shadow because I take Kennesaw State students. Georgia Tech moved their program over to Kennesaw State, and so that master program sends me students 2 times a week, and they come with me into every patient appointment that I see. So, here and there, I can probably have people come in for an hour or so and see the lab and stuff like that. We could probably do that. But I would definitely ask questions. And through those questions, we can see if there's really an interest. And, yep. So don't be afraid to ask questions.
That's some really good advice, and we really want our members to be asking questions because this is not like such a well-known field. So feel free to ask questions right now. And then one of our members asked, "What is the difference between your job and a physical therapist?"
So a physical therapist isn't going to do much at all, and really, it's not even in their scope. They're not doing design modifications, fitting. When I interface with them, it's because I have just fit someone with a device, whether it's a ankle foot orthosis to control an ankle, with the wild leopard there, or a prosthesis. And as soon as they have delivery of that, I want them to get in and start working with a physical therapist. The physical therapist is going to start training them how to be mobile in the device that I've provided. So I also like to work with therapists before, especially with amputees, to get strong in their core and in the existing limbs that they have, so they can be ready to succeed in using the device. So yeah, they teach people how to ambulate better, how to walk, how to regain their strength and get stronger, range of motion in their joints. If there's an issue there, maybe like a contracture or tightness, they will help these people work that out to better use the device that I fit them with. Did that answer your question?
As a follow-up, I wanted to ask, like, what are the most common, like, other individuals and professions do you work with day to day?
Right. So I work a lot with physical therapists and occupational therapists, which also occupational therapists also include hand therapists, certified hand therapists. Work with that group. At the hospital, I work with case managers and I work with nurses, and then sometimes doctors at the hospital. And then where I have to get referrals from doctors. I cannot see a patient and just start working on them because insurance won't cover it, and I'm not following the do no harm. So I need a doctor to direct me with a prescription, and then sometimes we'll do a follow-up phone call so I can make sure that, hey, doc, is this what you were wanting? Is this what you saw? Because I'm also seeing this, and we can have a conversation on that. The doctors I work with most are vascular surgeons, especially pertaining to amputees, orthopedic surgeons, both for surgeries which may require some type of orthotic device, but they also do amputations. Doctor of osteopathy is another type of orthopedist, but you'll see DO. Sometimes that's what that is. Podiatrists deal with a lot of that. They're able to work with right above the knee down to the foot. So I do a lot of bracing for them and sometimes foot orthotics. I deal with neurologists. And then I deal with a lot of primary care doctors because I have to get notes from the doctors to supplement my notes to show insurance that this is why we're asking what we're asking. So I deal with tons of different types of doctors, therapists, nurses. Yep.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. I had another question from one of our members is, were there any careers that you were interested beforehand before becoming a prosthesist?
I think really, since I was in high school, I wanted to be some kind of orthopedist.
Right.
In my mind, it was orthopedic surgeon.
Mhm.
And I also thought about, I wanted to be a physical therapist at one point too, because I went to physical therapy school. Those were the big three. I ended up being the prosthetist, orthotist. Yeah. So, but yeah, I never wanted to be a jeweler or a chef or anything like that. It was always healthcare.
And why did you specifically choose to kind of work in the clinic field? Because you were saying that you were a manager of the hang in your clinic. Was that the choice you made? And like, what was the reasoning behind that?
To stick with clinical,
Mm-hmm.
The patient interaction.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would never leave that. I don't ever see myself going to represent maybe a manufacturer, because everything I'll show you, there are a bunch of different companies that make feet, all these parts. Companies make these and they want us to use their stuff, not their competitors. So they'll employ prosthetists and orthotists to come talk to us, the field prosthetist orthotist, to get their, buy their stuff because theirs is the best. So I don't really have an interest in that. Education, I do go to schools like this, but I also go to Kennesaw State. I went to Georgia Tech when it was at Georgia Tech, and either help with lab or do an hour here and there doing education. I also go to physical therapy and occupational therapy schools and teach them on the prosthetic and orthotic portion, just so they have an understanding. I'll go teach that as well. So I like the education, but it's not what I want to do. I want to stay in the clinic. And research, I do participate in some studies, but I usually do it here, and it's just a small portion of what I do. But I mean, the research is very important. So, yeah, but the patient care, I won't go away from that ever.
And what are some other responsibilities you have being the manager of the clinic, kind of like the official side of it?
So I run a couple different clinics. I'm mainly responsible for getting the referrals to come in. So if I'm not out meeting people, marketing, but it's really building relationships. If I'm not out doing that, then I'm going to get fewer and fewer referrals. So I'm out in the community in all my free time, whether it's going over to the hospital and fitting patients. Every time I do that, I make sure I talk to a few people just because I like talking to people, but I also want to remind them, hey, we're here. If you need anything, send us your referral. If you have questions, give me a call. So I do that. I'm also in charge of expense reporting, invoicing, the money that goes in, the money that comes out, payroll. We hear in any profession, you're going to hear more complaints than you're going to hear attaboys. So I get to deal with any complaints that might come through. They're not very often, but they do happen just because a lot of people we see are either sick or they're down. Why did this happen to me? This is not fair, and I'm going to take this out on somebody. And myself or one of my clinicians could be doing the best job possible, taking the best care of this patient. It's not going to matter to some people, and we understand that. So yeah, so it's all the unglamorous things behind the scene that I get to deal with. So, and then I'm also responsible for dealing with my managers and letting them know, we're gonna, here's where we are, here's what we're doing, because it is still sales. I mean, their deliveries equal money, and you have to pay the people. You have to pay for the building, all that stuff. So that's management gets to do that too.
Thank you so much for that. One of our members asked, how often do people have amputated limbs? And as a follow-up, I also wanted to add, what are the most common types of cases you see?
Right. So it's predominantly lower limb. And I see, so let's say there are 100 amputees. I would say 85% of those are going to be lower limb. So 15% upper. And that's fingers all the way down. I mean, I see some people, every once in a while, you'll see somebody that's lost their arm at the shoulder or above the elbow. But all those, that's that 15%. The 85%, roughly, are lower extremity and predominantly due to diabetes. They're typically older. If it's not diabetes in that older group, let's say maybe that's 40 to 50% of that group, probably 50%, diabetes or vascular disease. So PAD, which is peripheral artery disease, PVD, all these vascular issues. It's not diabetes, it's going to be vascular. Even though diabetes is vascular, they're kind of two different subsets. Sometimes I'll see patients due to cancer, and those are typically younger. So osteosarcoma is a type of cancer, and it causes limb loss. So I'll see that. That's usually a younger group. I have two people that I met that are osteosarcoma, and they're above the knee, and they're both not just walking awesome, they're starting to run. So that's so much fun as well. And then trauma. So accidents is another smaller part, but we do see motorcycle accidents. I have at least 8 amputees that are amputees because they were in a motorcycle accident. So that's quite a bit. And let's see. So those are the 4 biggest groups of why you're going to lose a limb below lower limb. Above, typically cancer or trauma. So yeah. So I see fingers taken off from saws. You see cancer up in here, also osteosarcoma and different sarcomas. Yeah. So, but definitely the The bulk of everything, I would say, would be partial feet or above the knee, or sorry, below the knee amputees where they still have their knee and they're going to go into a socket. I'll show you this in a second, the different parts and pieces of some of these. But yeah, lower limb.
Do you think you can show us like some of the basic like technology?
Yeah.
Because I know we were talking about it.
All right. So not necessarily technology. I mean, I guess all of it has some kind of technology to it. But I'll show you just a few different pieces. So we'll start with prosthetics. And I know I keep saying fingers. We do custom silicone restorations. So I will see somebody I take a bunch of pictures on an iPad for this, and then I'll take an image of both hands. So this person, let's say they were missing their finger right here. Okay. And all they want to do is be able to have this look. They don't want people staring and say, hey, what happened to your finger? So maybe they're a lawyer, maybe they're a busy mom. They don't want to deal with that. But it also gives them that length back, which is very important for day-to-day stuff. Try eating tonight just with your finger bent and try to use this finger without this length. It's hard. And you don't know it. You don't realize these things. All of these things that we talked about cause the patient some kind of deficit. It makes their life harder, in most cases, significantly harder. So I'm also a troubleshooter. So, somebody comes in and, yeah, hey, technology, that's neat. Oh, you have stuff that can move. No, I want it to look normal, and I want to get the length back so I can grab a cup and not drop it because I forgot that I'm missing part of my finger. I get a lot of reports of that. Like you grab a cup and you drop it because in our mind, we still have this length in our body part, but in real life and realistically, no, it's not there. So it's called proprioception, knowing where you are in space. If you're missing parts of your body, your proprioception is off and you start having issues. So do something as simple as that up to, let's say somebody loses their arm, mid-arm, they still have nerves that want to do things, So no longer are we're not this technological, it's not Luke Skywalker yet. We're not there. I hope I'm still practicing when we can do that kind of thing. But we can still control a hand using existing nerves through the skin. I'm not allowed to obviously go through skin, but I can get electrical readouts from the existing nerves telling the muscle what to do. So to that end, when I get my patient in and I map out where their nerves are controlling the muscles the best. So I have a neuro tester, and when done properly, you can control a hand. And you can do different grips. So that's pretty cool technology. We're not to Luke Skywalker yet. You guys are young, but that's Star Wars, okay? No, I'm kidding. But the technology, and inside there are electrodes on each side. So I use one muscle group to control closing. I use another muscle group to control opening. So that, yeah, this is so much fun. And underneath this glove is a hand that has a lot of movement. So we don't have a hand yet that can control individual fingers. We're getting there. And that's also due to the surgery types. Once our surgeons can do surgeries where they can split nerves and control different muscle groups, we're going to be able to get more control. But that's pretty good control for what's available. So we have that. Turn that off so I don't kill the battery. And we also we use a lot of carbon fiber because carbon fiber allows us to store energy. Stored energy in carbon fiber, when the tension is removed, offers spring. So you're storing the energy. When you leave the floor, you have spring because you're releasing the energy. We also use a lot of hydraulic units that allow us to have more of a natural gait pattern. So I want to try to get most of my patients, if not all, to do a heel to toe walking, because that's what pretty much all of us do. So we use tiny little hydraulic units. There are feet now where that hydraulic unit is controlled by a computer. So it can sense when they're going up inclines, when they're going down inclines, when they're moving faster, when they're moving slower. The computer will tighten or loosen the hydraulic in the ankle to slow down the speed or speed up the ankle. So it's pretty awesome. So that's some technology. So you keep seeing, Georgia. I don't have any Georgia Tech sockets here because it's not allowed. But this is a socket. So when I see my patient for casting, I showed you this clear one, but this is just intermediate. This is only pretty much used in the clinic. So it's plastic, so I can heat it up. If I'm pushing a little too hard on the bone, I can heat it and push it out. I can also get my alignment or where my foot is in space under the socket. I might need it out here, I might need it in, I might need it turned. All of that, I need to be able to see how my patient's walking and how I can fine tune it to make them walk as best as they can. And that's what I do in this intermediate. Once that is good, I'll see them typically in about a week, 5 to 7 days for the take home, which is everything in a prosthesis. So to keep it on, we use gel liners, which is like a gel sock that goes over the limb, and it may have a pin in the bottom there. That hole is a little lock. So when they go in, they can feel it ratcheting to release. There's a little button on the side, and that lets them take it off. I also use suction. So I'll use an outer sleeve to maintain suction so it stays on. I can pull somebody out of the chair before I'll pull their leg off. That's how good these suction systems are. And then the other way to keep it on is we use small little vacuums. And that vacuum will pull out any additional air in the socket to keep that fit perfect throughout the day and activity. So that's how we keep on a socket, attach it to a knee and a foot and whatever else is needed. So let's see, I showed you, I guess, one new technology kind of. A foot brace is called an AFO, an ankle foot orthosis. Orthosis is the fancy word for a brace. But we're using carbon fiber now because it's much lighter than plastic and it has a lot more inherent energy storage. And we're doing that in custom formats now. So I can support somebody after a stroke or somebody that's been in maybe a motor vehicle accident and has some nerve damage. They have drop foot, they have instability. I can do that. I also deal typically at the hospitals, but I do a lot of spine bracing all the way up from neck down to the hips. And then I also deal with fractures. So if someone has a broken arm, we have braces for that. And then we also do knee braces. This is a specific type of brace to help somebody with osteoarthritis in the knee. So I can direct pressure depending on where the pain and the bone-to-bone osteoarthritis is typically when all your surface is gone and the bone-to-bone is causing pain and instability. So I can support that as well. So yeah, that's a lot of different types of braces.
Yeah, no, thank you for showing us all of that. It's really cool to see like how far technology has come to help with these things, but then also see like what we need to work on to like make it even better.
Right. Absolutely.
One question from one of our members kind of concerning this is, what's the main problem that you face when getting the nerve connection for a prosthetic control?
So the only time I'm really looking for a neural or a connection, so I want the electrical feedback, is when I'm doing upper extremity. It's called myoelectric prosthetics. Weakness. So sometimes it's hard to find a muscle that's strong enough to cause movement in one of these. So, but that's not an end all. If that's the case, if they're not already with a therapist, I'll send them to therapy, and then they can start training on how to get these muscles stronger, because that's what's needed. They need to be able to know how to control these muscles that are really no longer controlling anything, but they still work. And sometimes they'll only work when they get stronger. So that's another time I interface with a therapist. When I'm doing the computerized fingers, I use, and this is a challenge too. So if you think it could be hard to find muscles in here, it's really hard to find muscles in here. I use this is called the thenar group, hypothenar group, but then there are tiny little muscles in between each carpal bone here, metacarpal bone, and you have to find those to control some of these, and that can be difficult as well. But fun, but difficult. So, yeah, it usually, Sam, it's weakness that presents the biggest setback.
Yeah. One question from our members, kind of concerning more about your education, was what was your experience studying medicine in Georgia Tech?
So I went to the better school, Georgia, right? Before, no, I'm kidding. But math, it might be different now, but I went to Georgia 20 years ago. The science is very rigorous there at Georgia, but the math that I had to take was not rigorous. When I got to Tech, I mean, I don't really use calculus, but I had to take all 4 calculuses, and that was tough. So that experience there was like, whoa, catching up on all my calculi, whatever you say. But no, it was good. I know I knocked Georgia Tech, but it was a fun campus to be on. I was already married when I went, so I didn't stay on campus. I would go every day for class and then go home. So I had already had the experience of being a student on a major campus at Georgia. So I was a little bit different. But in some of these master's programs, no matter what you're studying for medicine, you're going to run into all different types. So a lot of people are married, a lot of people are not staying on campus. But it was a good experience. It's a really good school. So I'm sure some of you are already looking at that.
Thank you. Yeah. One of our other members asked, what is the most severe case you have ever dealt with, and how did you handle the stress if the situation was stressful?
So if you give me less than a minute, I'm gonna grab a picture and I'll be right back. And then I'll tell you one of the weirdest cases. If you get grossed out, you may want to just, for the weird case. Okay. Thank you for your patience. So I'll go. I mean, every case is different. There are some cases that just, I love working with my patients, and sometimes it's like, whoa, I have been through so many things. The weirdest, kind of grossest patient that I remember was a gentleman who was diabetic, had a wound that he just wasn't taking care of, got a brand new puppy, let the puppy sleep with him. The puppy ate his toe off. So I see weird things. So I told you, but it's real life. I would never have thought coming out of school that I'd see a case like that. But yeah, when I said, so how'd you lose your toe? Yeah, when he told me that, I was like, whoa. So, because diabetics don't have feeling sensation, especially farther away in the small little nerves. So yeah, sorry if that grossed anyone out, but this case, and I covered the face, I think I have, if I have a picture of people, it's because I've got their consent, but even now I'm still going to cover it. But this is a 22-year-old gentleman who did not take care of himself at all. Severe diabetic, You want your numbers to be around 120. He was in the thousands. So he had 2 life-saving procedures. One, a hip disarticulation, which is amputation right through the hip, and then the other, a fairly short above-knee amputation. 18 months, I think, he was in and out. He was in Shepherd Center for a while. So he almost died, but this was a very severe case because he was involved in things that make diabetes worse, drugs and alcohol, and just not caring what he ate, and just being, not having a good lifestyle. But he was able to walk, and that was awesome. That was awesome. I deal with some soldiers. I have one patient who no longer is able to talk, and he's not able to control his feet, so we make braces for him. During the Iraq War, I believe it was, the Iraqis burnt a whole lot of oil, and that really affected a lot of our soldiers, and it affected their peripheral nervous system. So that's one that's touching. I'll see him at Kroger every once in a while, and I may be in the biggest hurry, but he wants to talk, and I want to talk to him. So yeah, it's just, I don't have time to get invested in all my patients. I probably do get invested in all of them, but there are just some that really, I'll never forget. So yeah. Well, did that answer your question? Long-winded.
No, that was interesting about the toe getting bitten off by
Yeah,
the
it
dog.
happened. It was weird.
And so for one of our last questions of the night, a member asked, was there ever a case where you didn't really know what to do or like where to start?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So each one of you, no matter what you go into, you're going to run into that. Now, granted, I'm 17 years into this. Is there still stuff that I could be better at? Absolutely. I have no problem reaching out to, if I see an upper extremity case that, man, I've only seen this once in my career, I'm going to ask somebody that has seen 10. And we have specialists across our company. We have 850 clinics, so we're by far the largest prosthetic orthotic company in the world, but definitely in the U.S. So I have avenues for help with everything if I need it. And when you're younger clinicians, so the age and how long you've been a clinician should be directly inverse to your pride. So, when I was younger, there were probably times when I'm like, oh, no, I can do this myself. I don't need to ask for help because I'm going to get this done because I'm awesome. But it doesn't always work like that. You're not doing any benefit to your patient by not asking, whether it's asking the doctor, hey, what else is going on here? Or, hey, guy that's been doing this 10 years more than me and has seen 10 times the amount of this type of patient. Yeah, you definitely ask. So yeah, there have been plenty of cases where I'm like, huh. So, and also we do continuing education. I have to get a certain amount of hours. I think it's 150 hours every 2 years. And so that helps too. So I make sure I get a mix of stuff so I'm up on everything. So yeah, you're always learning. You're always listening. And don't be afraid to ask questions where you are now. And, when you're 17 years into whatever profession you're in, ask questions. So you'll be better for it and your patients will be better for it.
Yeah. Where do you do your continuing education?
I will do it online sometimes. Hanger also offers a week-long education extravaganza. It's called Hanger Live, and we do it in big cities across the U.S. So we haven't had it because of COVID, but I've been to Nashville, I've been to Vegas. We're doing Orlando soon. I think this year coming up is Dallas. So because we usually have about 1,000 to 1,200 of us. About half the company goes, and the other half stays and sees our patients. So yeah, but I can knock out a bulk of it by going to that. And then manufacturers will, again, because they want us to buy their product, they'll offer free credits
Mhm.
around Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Okay, well, thank you so much for all this information. I mean, you definitely inspired a lot of students to partake in this wonderful opportunity and to help serve the community. So thank you so much for joining us and making it very interactive by showing us all those different pieces of technology. That was very interesting.
absolutely. So, and feel free to give my email address out.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm happy to answer questions. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me and to get your questions answered.
Yeah, that'd be really helpful, I'm sure, to a lot of our members.
Perfect.
And if you guys have any questions, please be sure to either contact me or root through Slack, and we'll give you Dr. or Mr. Elserod's information through that way. And we're going to be leaving the QR code for attendance up for 30 seconds. Remember, to get this credit, you must complete the form by September 26th. And this video will be posted soon on our YouTube channel. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mr. Elserod. Have a
Thank you
good
for
night.
having me.
Thank you.
All right. Y'all have a great night.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.